have a pretty fun video today. We're taking a look at the 1886-87 Lone Jack cigarettes, rulers, celebrities, or baseball. These are classified as N370, and it's really an oddball release. Let's take a look at some more information on this. So it's not confirmed whether this is an 1886 set or an 1887 set. There's 37 cards in general, so there's 13 baseball players. They're from the 1886 championship team. What's interesting is these are the same images as used on the N172 Old Judge cards, which are 1887 plus. The only thing is some cards are zoomed in, I believe, on the Lone Jack cigarettes in comparison to the Old Judges, but we'll cover the Old Judges in a bunch of videos in the future. Now, on the rulers and celebrities side of things, there's 24 cards. And, I wasn't really sure if this checklist is complete on the set. And the reasoning is, if you think about it, right? If you have a sheet, 37 cards, it just doesn't make sense. 37 is a prime number, and you're going to be cutting them in rows. So I asked in my Facebook group, and we'll go to Facebook group a little bit later, and there's people in there that know more than me. And one of the responses was by the owner of Vintage Non-Sports Auctions. He said there's probably more than 24. They're scarce enough, and I expect more to be found. But we're also going to go over a theory that was brought up as well by Tom, because this is the theory that I'm kind of leaning into right now. And, maybe I could do a little bit more math behind it and see some of the other sets to see if we can have a decent number that would be on a sheet. But regardless, just to know, there's 13 baseball players, which is from the championship team, and then 24 rulers, celebrities. Those rulers and celebrities are not just U.S. based. There's also international figures. We'll cover that in a second. So here's what I'm thinking right now. If there is only 37, there's probably multiple sets printed on the same sheet. So there's a few other Lone Jack sets that have a similar appearance and similar dates that were issued, like between 1886 and later. And here's two of them over here. There's multiple, by the way. So we have an actress over here to the right, and then we have the buildings. And I don't have any of the buildings. I do want to go after some of the buildings on there. I know the Capitol building. I want to say, I can't remember the other ones. I've seen them though on some Facebook groups before, but they're very, very tough to find. I believe there's the Capitol building and also the White House I've seen too. Regardless, there's a decent amount in that set. But my thought is, if there is only 37, they had to print others on that sheet at that time. Unless the card was double printed, but it doesn't look like that's the case with the pop reports. There's just not a lot of these out there. So I just wanted to bring that up to attention, and maybe I'm spending a little bit too much time on the 37, but either there's multiple sets printed at the same time, or there's gonna be more that are gonna be discovered in the future. So with that being said, it's typical to see paper loss on these cards. A lot of them that I've seen that graded between 1s and 2s have paper loss on the back, and it's also common to see trimmed bottoms. This is one of the weird cases of 1800s cards. People did not like the tobacco advertisements at the bottom, so people would cut them out. I have a Mark Twain in my personal collection that has the bottom cut out, and grading companies are very finicky on how they grade them. Sometimes they'll grade those cards, sometimes they will send them back. When I tried to get my Mark Twain graded, both SJC and CGC rejected that card. Now, I know it is an N370 Lone Jack compared to the image, and compared to cardboard stock, but they said it was too trimmed. Now, if it was a baseball player, would they say that? I don't know. But, and I'll try resubmitting it in the future. Now, there are error cards in this set. There's 4 errors, and they're all uncorrected. So, well, as of now, they're uncorrected. We don't have any copies that have the correct spellings. So you have Welch, Kemmler, Kamsky, and Tip ONeal. Now, I didn't want to give a specific price on the commons for the baseball players, because first off, you're not going to really find them raw. But on the non-sports side, you can still find these raw. I might be low on my price estimates, but I think most of these common non-sports you can find between $50 and $100. maybe I should expand that out to 150, 50 to 150, really depending on shape. But that's my opinion on that side of things. If you're gonna find these, what they're worth currently. Also, I wanted to cover the Lone Jack Cigarettes Company. So I would say that all the Lone Jack sets are extremely rare. I assume that these were a regional issue, and that's why there's not a ton of them out there, but that is not fully confirmed. They were issued out of Lynchburg, Virginia, and I would say outside the N370s, because like in baseball, the N370s, they're not the most popular, but they go for quite a bit of money because they're scarce. I think the most important Lone Jack set is the N365 Lone Jack Inventors. It took me 4 years to build my set. I know two other people, it took them about 20 years to complete their sets. There's 4 known sets, and each of the cards are under a 10 pop. They're the nicest cards I've seen in person, design-wise. Obviously, I'm a little biased because I collect the set, but we'll cover another video. But just a little bit of background information about the Lone Jack brand. Full set pricing. So there is a full set of just the baseball players. This does not include the non-sports individuals. I actually don't know if there's a full set of both baseball and the non-sports historical figures. So the only set that I saw was sold by REA, and this was back in summer of 2021. They have all 13 baseball players, and it sold for $60,000. And what they mentioned on their description is one should realize that we have sold only 12 different examples of these cards in the last 20 years. That shows you how tough these N370 cards are. They've sold 12 in 20 years, and they're a big auction house, right? I mean, they're easily a top 5, top 3 auction house in the baseball card space. And if they've only sold 12 in the last 20 years, and they specialize in pre-war cards, keep that in mind. All right, so here's the pop report, and we'll talk a little bit about the pop because the pop's pretty messed up. SGC is 63, PSA is 24, total pop of 87 between those 37 cards. That means there's about 2 to 3 of every single card. Now, unfortunately, the SGC pop reports are broken for the N370 sets. They have like 4 or 5 different sets that they have under their pop report for N370 with different years. As you saw when we are going back to the first set, some of them are labeled 1886, some of them are 1887. So those are 2 different things. Then they just have a Lone Jacks in general in their pop report. Then they have Lone Jacks for non-sports and Lone Jack, like it's all over the place. So I tried my best getting these pops. I could have missed one. So just calling that out. The highest PSA graded I saw was a 7. The highest SGC, I believe, was a 6. I didn't check every single pop on the SGCs for the highest grade, so there could be a higher one. And also, totally my opinion, but I think most of these examples have been graded. Just the Lone Jacks are so tough. I still think it's possible for there to be an attic find. Like someone in the Virginia area finds a bunch of tobacco cards, and there's a lot of Lone Jacks there. I think that's entirely possible. But I don't see there being a lot more of these out there like other sets where there's a continuous supply that get graded. I can't see that happening because they're just that tough within the hobby. Okay, and one more thing before we do jump into some of these solo cards in the set. If you want to join my non-sports Facebook group, I have this over here, Facebook Vintage Non-Sports Card Collectors. We're up to 1.4K members in about 2 months. So one of my goals is to really scale up this group, buy, sell, trade, education side of things. I believe that's super important, not only for non-sports, but just sports or for cards in general. This one obviously focuses on non-sports. I may eventually make other Facebook groups, but non-sports is kind of one of my passions. So if you want to join that group and hang out with a bunch of other collectors, people that know way more than I do, I'd join it. So, all right, I'm going to start off with the baseball side of things, and then we're going to jump into non-sports. I think I've featured 4 baseball cards. So up first, we have a borderline Hall of Famer, Bob Carthers. I think that's how I pronounce it. I apologize if I don't. I have not bought one of his cards before. I have heard of his name because he's in some other sets, but his wins above replacement is about 60, which is kind of borderline for baseball Hall of Fame. Especially for that era, though, I think he'll eventually make it. He won 5 championships in a 10-year career, and he was also a baseball umpire. Now, these sales are all over the place. There was a 1.5 that got recycled recently between a GAI slab and a PSA slab, and then multiple auction houses, and all those sold between like $1,900 and $2,300. But then there was an SJC 1.5 that sold in 2019 for $6,600. That's a pretty large difference between these two 1.5s, but just something I wanted to call out with that. Up next, Charles Kamsky. This is one of the 4 error cards. He was the first owner of the Chicago White Sox. I think this is the most expensive one in the set. So an SGC 5 sold in 2013 for $22,000, and a 4 MK sold in 2008 for 23 essentially. Those were the only 2 sales. So it has not sold in 10 plus years. I have no idea what this card would do in auction today. Minus that full set that sold for 60, right? So figure a lot of them had to be into the Kamsky, but I just don't know what solo that would run. All right, Chris Vonder. I probably completely butchered that. So he was the owner of the Browns, which was now considered the St. Louis Cardinals. He bought the Browns for $1,800 in 1882 and then won 4 championships since 1885. His story is interesting. He ended up becoming broke at like the end of his lifetime, and Kamsky would give him money from time to time. Also, this guy was on the Hall of Fame ballot and for like a Veterans Committee vote. Did not make it, but it's always a possibility that he makes the Hall of Fame one day. I mean, early baseball pioneer and such. This 5 MK sold back in 2009 for $6,462. And I think this is the last baseball one. Tip ONeal. This is one of the other cards that is an error, although I didn't mention it. Triple Crown winner. That's how I first found out about him. And I know someone that bought his old judge at a baseball card show for like $300, which was a steal. He had a career 144 OPS plus. Probably won't make the Hall of Fame, but still a really good player back in the 1800s. A 1.5 sold in 2014 for $3,300. All right, let's take a look at the non-sports. I do apologize for these not being in order by last name. I was literally just going through the checklist and adding stuff. So, Mark Twain, probably don't have to talk too much about him being a famous American icon and writer. Now, there wasn't any slab sales, but a few years ago, there was a raw one that sold on eBay for $1,100, and I was the underbidder. I can't remember if I was second or third or fourth. I want to say a bid on the card, and I just did not have a chance. I did not win that card. I had no idea at the time, by the way, this is 2+ years ago, how rare these cards were. And I've gotten to appreciate these a lot more since then. But regardless, this was the card that sold on eBay for $1,100. Like, this is like a 1.5, maybe a 2. And yeah, so just to show you guys on that side of things. Okay, up next, Queen Victoria, 63 years as the Queen. SGC 6 sold in 2022 for $420. The last sale before that was in 2012 for $150. Again, just kind of reiterating the point. If you see one of these and you have the opportunity to buy one of these cards, you just got to buy it, because chances are it's going to take you years to come across another one of them. All right, grants. Civil War general and U.S. president. I actually do have a grant. Mine is a 1.5, I want to say. The most recent sale, funny enough, there was one in July. It should populate in my non-sports video once I record that. But SGC 3 sold for $725. The last sale before that, I believe, was an SGC 4 that sold for $369 back in 2018. Ex-President Arthur, president from 1881 to 85. He was the vice president under Garfield before he was assassinated. Now, the last sale I saw on this one was an SGC 1 that sold back in 2008 for $289. President Cleveland, 2-time president, 22nd and the 24th. SGC 1.5, which I apologize for not putting the year when it sold. I thought I did, but I did not when I was creating this. That sold for $232. Cleveland has a lot of rare cards in the 1800s. And obviously he was president during the issuing of a lot of these as well. All right, Otto von Bismarck, known as the Iron Chancellor. He helped unify Germany back in 1871. So if you look at historical figures, Germany-wise, way up there. SGC 5 sold back in 2020 for $246. Bartholdi, he actually designed the Statue of Liberty. I couldn't find any sales on this specific Bartholdi. And just to be transparent, this is my copy to the left. I bought this raw at a show. I want to say I either paid like $175 or $200 Can't remember for sure, but I really like this card quite a bit, especially since I have the Alan Gids Reviews card of the Statue of Liberty. I think they pair awesome next to each other. So that's it for this video. Obviously, if you want to explore the set, definitely do it. It's a fun one, but I am always looking for help for this video series. So if you're an expert in a set and you want to help out, appreciate it. Hit me up on my different social medias or email. And I want to give a thank you to different channel members, Paul Giles, Alaska Picker, and Aaron Herbert. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to upload at least one of these set videos every single week. May expand that out in the future once a project I'm working on is completed, but we'll be covering that later. And again, if you want to learn more about non-sports, I have a full series that I'm developing, so check out the other videos. All right, I'll see you in the next one.